tonight on the Cover One Buffalo podcast. It is AFC East Division Championship week, and we are joined by none other than our man Marcel Louis-Jacques from ESPN. But first, our guys,
broadcasting live to Bills Mafia worldwide with Greg Thompson and Aaron Quinn.
Welcome to the NFL. Doesn't matter what's happened before today. Today's a brand new day. It's a brand new season.
Your number one podcast for objective Buffalo Bills coverage. No matter where you are, we got you covered.
Good evening and welcome to the Cover One Buffalo podcast. You are joining your host, Greg Thompson, along with my national championship game participant co-host, Aaron Quinn. Aaron, how we doing? You're wearing the zip up, you're wearing the pullover. Michigan has defeated Alabama and is in the national championship game. Congratulations, my friend. I'm looking forward to a fun Monday for you.
Thanks. I am the biggest fair weather fan when it comes to college sports. I don't pull this stuff out of the closet until I see dubs. So that was fun. Being a Michigan football fan wasn't fun for a lot of my young adult life. It wasn't super cool. So now it's a lot of fun again, even though they're cheaters. I'll take it. I don't care. I sound like a Pats fan. I don't care. Just give me rings.
There you go. Yeah, they seem to be doing all right with it.
Yeah.
And we're in this really weird spot. The Buffalo Bills they have achieved what many people thought would not be the case 4 or 5 weeks ago. They are in a position that, coming into the season, we probably would have seen as a disappointment, not having the division locked up, needing to win in order to do it, being in a position where it's not even a lock that they make the playoffs, depending on what happens on Saturday. If both Pittsburgh and Jacksonville win, the Bills are in a win and you're the 2 seed and host the winner of Houston, Indianapolis, or lose and you're out of the playoffs. We talked about, if a coach and GM don't make the playoffs in a healthy Josh Allen season, that's grounds for termination. And
hot seat.
Yeah. Plenty of people will be ready to jump straight to termination. It's just such a weird position to, on one hand, I feel fortunate that they've dug back into this position and given themselves this chance. On the other hand, it's kind of crazy that this is where we are and even what the possibilities are. Where is your head at as we go into this match?
I thought you were going to say, and also part of me wanted that to fail so that we could just fire Sean McDermott and get offensive head coach.
Fire an offensive coach,
It's crazy. Honestly, shout out to the NFL script writers this year. Did a great job getting this right down to the last minute. Sunday Night Football being for so much on the table. And this game's so cool too, because it's not just, there's so much on the Bills side here, right? I mean, 2 seed, potentially not even making the playoffs, depending on how the day goes ahead of them. But Miami also has a lot riding on this game. Like, they've already punched their ticket for the playoffs, but this is the difference between getting a home playoff game and maybe having to go on the road somewhere and play in the playoffs. Like, I don't know about how we'll talk to Marcel, but I know for me right now, like, there's a couple teams that no matter how this shakes out for the playoffs, if I'm other teams in the league right now, I don't want to go to Arrowhead and play Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Andy Reid. Like, I don't want to have Buffalo come into town. Teams like I definitely don't want Buffalo to get a home game if I'm the other AFC team. So it's interesting how this weekend's going to play out, and kudos to the NFL for getting these division games at the end of the season, and they are mattering. And that is good. That's good for football. It's good for business.
So without further ado, our former, beat writer assigned to Buffalo here with ESPN, now with the Miami Dolphins, and you see him on Around the Horn, Marcel Louis-Jacques. Marcel, how we doing, sir?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on. Good to be back on the show. I gotta admit though, man, like every time I go on a show, like a Buffalo show, I'm always waiting for it to be like an intervention, just to be like
come back to us.
You traitor! We hate you. Never show your face in this town again. Like one of these times, somebody's gonna trick me into thinking it's all sweet, and I'm just gonna get rocked when I hop in the room. But I appreciate it if it's not you guys. Although I don't know, Aaron looks like I just uncovered his master plan. So
I was gonna say,
I don't know.
Nate, I might just text Nate right now and see
Well, I will say, hopefully you see that as the good impression that you made while you were covering the Bills. I think made a lot of connections and friendships while you were here, and appreciated your work. And now it's been, interesting. You've had the excitement of obviously going to Miami, a rocket ship of an offense with this team, and I've been stuck in this spot of the analytical side of my brain sees the capabilities, the explosion, what they've been able to put up in historic fashion, literally at multiple points of the season, most yards ever, most points ever, through, up to that point. And then, the fan side of me likes the petty element of, yeah, but who have you beat? Knowing that in the back of my mind, oh, some of that stuff happens and you just get, bad luck at the wrong timing, or like, hey, they could have won this game, they could have won that game. But eventually part of it does stack up, and like, what the hell? Like, how can they be so historically capable, and what that normally translates to, and then so many other instances where like, why doesn't it translate in those moments where you need it? Have you put your finger on how this season has come the way it has?
Yeah, not really, man. I wish that I did. I feel like if I had that equation figured out, that my salary would probably have a couple of extra zeros on it, and I might actually be employed by the Miami Dolphins here. Like for the majority of the season, I kind of just I've blown it off because the quality of wins don't necessarily matter, and they matter in like what the sixth tier of tiebreakers in the NFL, but like it doesn't matter. Win your games, get in the playoffs, and
there's no playoff committee knocking out Florida State.
Yeah. Exactly. It's a simple formula. So, like the complaints, I've never really put a whole lot of stock into it. And not to mention because they haven't had that slip up against a bad team as well. And those happen all the time. We've seen a couple of them in Buffalo. You've seen a couple of them in Philly. You've seen it at Kansas City. Like it happens all the time. And then finally they had one losing to the Tennessee Titans. It's going to have its consequences because now they're playing for the AFC East title in week 18 instead of sitting their starters in week 18. So like it's had its consequences, but that was always like the counter was right. Like, but they haven't beaten anybody. It's like, well, yeah, but they keep winning the games they're supposed to. There's something to be said for that.
Yeah.
And then so they lose to the Titans, and then they beat the Cowboys 2 weeks later, and you feel like, okay, like is this a normal team now? Like, is this how it's supposed to work? And
welcome to the NFL in 2023.
Yeah, like, hey, you joined the party. You are no longer an aberration. Like you're no longer perfect against the bad teams and imperfect against the good. You're a normal person. But no, and then last week was just I think like there's an explainer for it. I think it was the catalyst, the big movement there was Xavier Howard going down, and I feel like we'll probably get into that here and what that means for Sunday's matchup soon. But when Xavier Howard went down, and Eli Apple, who has been a healthy scratch, he is just as likely to be a healthy scratch as he is to be a special teams contributor. Like he is, that's essentially his role now. When he was put into the game, Lamar Jackson targeted and attacked him, often. Between him and Keter Cole, who I think they gave up a combined, let's say 165 yards, 3 touchdowns, perfect passer rating, just eviscerated that side of the field. He said, where's Jalen Ramsey? I'm going to go to the other side of it. This defense doesn't work as well when those two are not together. There's a reason why when Ramsey got back, this all of a sudden became one of the better defenses in the league, regardless of opponent.
Yeah.
So that was I think the wheels fell off a little bit there. Tyreek dropped the touchdown. Ravens scored right away, and all of a sudden you're starting to press, and it gets worse and worse. And exactly, it's an avalanche of what do they call that? It's like a comedy of errors. Right. It was like a Shakespeare play there. So that kind of
I looked up, and that game was like it really felt like 3 or 4 minutes, and then it was like, oh, what happened to this game?
Yeah, it got. I mean, the story was written, midway through the third quarter. Which I just from a sports writer's perspective, like I love it when I can file with deadlines. 10 minutes to go. Like the Cowboys game had my heart kind of going a little bit, just because it's like, okay, let me scrap that and write another one, and scrap that and write another one. But overall, like it's I'm not ready to let that performance say like this is not a good team. Like, oh, like I don't care if you go on the road and you lose to the Buffalo Bills in week 4. Go on the road and you lose to the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday Night Football. Like you go to Germany and you lose by a touchdown to the Kansas City Chiefs. Like none of those by themselves are like bad losses. Those are not defining losses that make you say this team sucks. They couldn't beat 3 of the best teams in the NFL at that, in that period of time. But that Ravens loss stuck with me a little bit more, because this isn't just a team. Like this is clearly the team you have to go through in order to get out of the AFC. And you didn't look close. Once the scripted plays stopped, it was not a close game at all. And so I don't think they're a bad team, but I think that the Ravens set a pretty clear hierarchy in this conference. And I don't know if I'm ready to put, especially after the Chubb injury and now with Howard, I'm not ready to put the Dolphins in that tier with the Ravens. I think they're kind of in a tier by themselves. Baltimore is.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think it's the San Francisco in the NFC and Baltimore in the AFC are kind of in their own tier. And then everybody's, I think, more closely competing with the top tier than in years past, where it's more of a logjam at that next tier. But you always had a really good pulse of the fan base here with Bills Mafia. And I'm assuming that you have the same thing in Dolphins Twitter and in the Dolphin fan base. In all honesty, we know as Bills fans, year in and year out, we are always what is going to be the way that we're disappointed, right? No matter how hot this team is, how are they going to disappoint us? There's been an all-time confidence that's come with this great offense, with this great season that the Dolphins have put together, especially in Dolphins Twitter, been an all-time confidence. But how do you think, like, I know as a fan, as it gets down to a season like this, when the Bills are digging out of the hole that they were in, like where that confidence goes. Do you see Dolphins fans starting to wane in confidence with the injuries piling up, a tough loss like that, and saying, hey, we've seen seasons come off the rails a little bit for us in the past where we don't finish as strong as we started? Is that kind of in the back of the fan base's mind right now, or is that confidence still as good as it was in October?
I mean, I think that there's a vocal minority that is hurt to the point where they're questioning Mike McDaniel's legitimacy as a coach. I think that is.
We have some.
It couldn't be more absurd. Yeah. I can listen to the Sean McDermott criticism. Sure. Like I can listen to that. This is year, what is it, 6? Year 6, year 7. You haven't got out the AFC yet. You have one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL and the most dynamic players in NFL history on your team. You're not being able to get out of your conference. Like, I can hear those conversations. I can sit there. I don't know. I'm not going to say I agree or disagree. I'll listen. I will not listen to any discussion about a coach who has won, what are we at? 30 games in his first 2 years. No. Sorry. 20 games in his first 2 years. And been to the playoffs back-to-back times, top 5, top 6 offenses in back-to-back years, something Dolphins haven't done since like 1995, 1996. This man's seat is as cold as I'm sure the weather is in Buffalo right now. Yeah. So like that's not happening. I think that what you're seeing from maybe the more reasonable fans is kind of like a slow acceptance of reality. And the reality is like, oh wow, actually this team's pretty injured. This team is pretty hurt. This team's depth is being tested right now. And it's at a point where, like, I say injuries are never an excuse, right? Like injuries are never an excuse, but they do help explain things. And I think they're at a point now where, there's that Bradley Chubb one, man, like that might've been the straw that broke the camel's back in theory. Like that's a tough one to lose. I mean,
we can't even show the CVS receipt that you posted earlier today. The font is so small you can't even read all the names that are on there. It's crazy, and this doesn't even have Jalen Phillips. This doesn't even have Connor Williams, like guys who were already on IR that were critical. Like, I think Bradley Chubb had better stats. I think most people saw Jalen Phillips was like the best pass rusher on the team. Connor Williams was a huge linchpin in what that offense was doing. We know how strong it is when Armstead's in healthy and able to play, but Williams was playing really, really well at center.
He was.
Eventually you get these cluster injuries at the same spots. And like you said, now you add in the pass rush isn't getting home, which maybe could have hidden an Eli Apple for a stretch where he's not as isolated. Now, if the pass rush can't get home and you have a guy like Apple out there, I'm going to assume that a lot of these guys limited down to the bottom are going to play and be there. But the handful, Chubb is a formality till he goes on IR. Tyreek obviously dealing with the house fire, which is crazy, just random thing to add into the week. With Xavier Howard, Raheem Mostert, Jalen Waddle, what's your read on? I heard a comment that I think maybe it might have been you that commented Waddle had to go from kind of team drills to overworking with an individual today. Are they trending anywhere close to playing, or is this just being cautious?
Howard is. I'm sure we will get the official stamp from Mike McDaniel Friday morning, but Howard is not expected to play. Like that's been the vibe for the entirety of this week. Jalen Waddle, that's a hopeful. It's a hopeful. I don't know if it's not an official designation either, but I'm sure that they'll write that in there. Questionable can be read as hopeful in this scenario. And the same more or less goes for Raheem Mostert. Hopefully, for the Dolphins' sake, they're hoping he can get at least back on the practice field in limited capacity tomorrow on Friday. Same goes for Jalen Waddle. If they can't practice, I don't expect them to play. If they can't practice in I don't expect them to play. And Raheem wasn't particularly close either last week.
So take that into the next phase of this. They have to approach that. Anyone thinking like, oh, well, they've already qualified for the playoffs, so maybe they're going to chalk it up as a bye week. Like the chance to go at home and host the Colts or the Texans versus going on the road to Arrowhead, regardless of what condition KC is in this year, it's still Mahomes and Reed at home in Arrowhead. Like that duality here, there's no exception that they're not going to do everything in their power to win. However, the one area I could see is you could have some realism or some pragmatism in, hey, we can still try to win even if it's not
the healthy Waddles.
Hey, we
better
in
Arrowhead than
we can still have Jeff Wilson and Devon Etchan are playing good ball. Like we can give that a shot. We don't have to push it. We can bring Mostert and Waddle back. Do you think? Again, I don't think anyone should plant any seeds of, they're not going to try to win. Of course they are. Do you think it could come into play in this piece of it of, hey, we do have a spot locked up here. This isn't our last game no matter what happens. Do you think they take that into account?
Yes, and I think the beauty of this game being Sunday Night Football is that the little contingency games that need to happen are going to be done by the time kickoff starts, or by kickoff at Hard Rock Stadium. So they'll be able to know, okay, did Pittsburgh beat Baltimore? Did Jacksonville take care of business? If we win this game, does it knock Buffalo out of the playoffs? Yeah. Do we host Indy? Do we host what I mean? If the scenario is okay, like we've got, even if we win, we got the Bills back-to-back weeks, or we're going to go to Arrowhead. I think that's the they're locked into that. I think a loss and they go to Arrowhead. They can't drop to the 7. Their worst case is going to the 6. It's just the 2 or the 6, and the 6 is automatically KC. Yeah, I don't think there's any realistic scenario anymore. KC cannot drop to the 4. So it's either host whoever. It could be Houston, Indy, Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, or Buffalo. I guess actually could be a combination if you win. So that there's a weird part where if it removes the possibility of eliminating Buffalo, it almost feels like it takes a little edge off the game, because the possibility of eliminating Buffalo is, if you have a pulse,
I can't imagine you flip around to the other side. Yeah. Of course we would want to eliminate the Dolphins. Like the chance you could knock them out completely.
And probably even a little bit bigger for the Dolphins franchise right now than for the Bill. If they were able, with what the Bills have done to them since 2018 and Josh Allen arriving here, whether it was McDaniel or Flores, for them to be able to, not as at the level the Patriots was for the Bills, but it's almost like exercising that team that has just continued to beat you over the last 4, 5, 6 years here. To knock that and their season would be almost a crown jewel in the hat of the franchise.
I was about to say, because then all of a sudden, it's, even if you are a 1-and-out, which, if the possibility is that they knock Buffalo out of the playoffs, I would expect them to win a playoff game. If you're hosting Indy or Jacksonville at this, you need to be able to beat them. Like, I think, that's the thing, the little caveat to all these injuries on the other side of the ball. It's like, Miami's not a bad team just because of these injuries. It's just a bad matchup against this team this week. And the prospect, in a vacuum, going to Arrowhead and winning I think is more possible than beating Buffalo in back-to-back weeks. I think there's a better chance of doing that against this year's Kansas City Chiefs team than there is beating a team. And it's not even just Buffalo. It's hard to beat any team twice in the season. It's hard to beat a team twice in a row in back-to-back weeks in the season. So like I think it's gonna, the fact that they have a playoff spot locked in already, I think will factor into the decision to play or sit guys. You know, if you're at 95%, you know, if you can basically do anything, go ahead. We got a division title on the line. You're going to go ahead and play. Yeah. If you're at 75%, 80%, if trainers say, hey, there's a slight chance that he does make this worse, like, you know, there is a playoff run to think about. They want to win the AFC East title. Do not get me wrong. I don't think it's something worth selling the entire farm to do. I think, like, you know, you're in this position, like, if you believe in your guys, you believe in your guys. You also have a playoff run to think about. It's not impossible to make the Super Bowl as the wild card.
Yeah. If you want to do something special, you need Waddle healthy. Straight up.
Correct. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So let's start a little bit of the matchup. We're not going to go too deep into the weeds, but on the defensive side of the ball, you have a guy, you know, Vic Fangio has a deep, you know, history of plays, strategies, things to pull from. He's now faced with, hey, you were planning on having the two guys off the edge that made all the exotic movement and pre-snap, post-snap disguises possible because you knew I only got to trick you for 2.5 seconds and then one of those guys is getting home, or they're going to make it so Siler or Wilkins or whoever it might be can clean it up on the inside anyways. So now we take that away. We don't have that. And not that, you know, Van Ginkel's had moments, Christian Wilkins still a problem, but it's obviously not the same with Phillips and Chubb. You add to that, at least in the moment, you're not going to have Xavier Howard on the back end. In my mind, that goes into, hey, if I try to play this vanilla, I am simply guaranteeing eventual death here. If I try the kamikaze style, yeah, I might die faster, but I might get you too. And Josh Allen has shown a propensity to be gettable. So in my mind, if I'm Joe Brady, that's what I'm planning for. I am assuming that Vic Fangio is going to just throw it from all different angles, and you have no idea, again, where Van Ginkel or whoever is coming from, you know, Kohu off the edge, you know, blitzing, whoever. I will be shocked if they try to play it vanilla. If they do, I'll accuse them of planning for the playoffs and not trying to win. I don't know what to expect. Is there, how else do you think they can approach this being as shorthanded as they are? Again, that getting Howard back can change some things. I think in the playoffs, he can go back to more traditional approaches. In the short term, how do you think he's going to try to approach this with one hand tied behind his back?
I think we're going to see, you know, does Vic Fangio kind of learn his lesson here in multiple ways? First of all, do you trust whoever is lined up opposite of Stephon Diggs? I don't particularly care what his effects, his efficiency, his effectiveness, his productivity over the past month or so has been. Doesn't matter. He put up 120 yards and 3 touchdowns on these guys in week 4, decided not to shadow. It was kind of an ego thing.
Real quick shout out. Eric did a really great breakdown of like 4 deep plays that were this far off over the last couple of weeks, that if just a handful of those hit, nobody's complaining or saying this, that like, oh my God, what's wrong? Yeah, sometimes those go off your fingertips or Josh overthrows you by 4 yards.
Yeah, so like, I'm not like anybody who thinks like, well, he hasn't done anything, he's not a threat anymore. Let's be real, be for real here. I think the clear and obvious choice is to shadow Stephon Diggs with Jalen Ramsey. I think it's clear and obvious. If you get beat by Khalil Shakir and Gabriel Davis, then you get beat by Khalil Shakir and Gabriel Davis. But you're going to kick yourself if, with the division title on the line, you let Stephon Diggs go for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns because you had Eli Apple 4 yards behind him on any given route. So I think that's number one. And number two, yeah, I think you got to throw some pressure at Josh Allen. And you know, they didn't necessarily try to blitz Lamar Jackson, and he picked them apart anyways. But a lot of zone, they picked them apart anyways, or he picked them apart anyways. I don't necessarily envy Vic Fangio's task here, but you don't have the horses. Like I said before, like there's a reason why, this defense works so well when everybody is healthy, because you've got those two horses up front and you've got your lockdown corners in the back. So you can do essentially whatever you want in the front seven. You know that Xavier Howard and Jalen Ramsey are on your number one, number two receiver, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Quarterback, you got to pick your poison, and you got to pick you got to pick it quickly. It's a shame that Howard went down when he did, because we really haven't seen that full secondary together over the past month or so. Javon Holland had been out since week 12 with a couple MCL injuries in both knees. Deshaun Elliott was in concussion protocol as well. So they're kind of back at that point where, and Vic said this to us early in the season. He kind of hinted like, hey man, we're not as deep as y'all think we are back here in the secondary. We have names, we don't have players per se. So it's going to be tough, and you're going to have to see some guys be Iron Men out there. There's not going to be a whole lot of rotating. I said this earlier in the day that even without Chubb and Phillips, Andrew Van Ginkel is a good pass rusher. Emmanuel Ogbah has been a 9-sack guy in his career. Melvin Ingram, I've had so many Bills fans in my mentions saying, I don't want to see Melvin Ingram. Like, he always terrorizes us.
In like 3 different uniforms.
Yeah, like he's a bill killer, apparently. He's a bill eater. So, like, they have guys. The problem is they don't have the depth anymore. So that 3-man rotation is going to have to go 4 quarters deep. It's going to have to play.
Each of those guys you listed are really nice guys in 20 to 25 snaps playing off of the attention a Chubb or a Phillips gets. And that, Seiler's awesome at cleaning things up in the same way that Jordan Phillips has had those seasons for us. Like, he's not creating it, but if you got a bunch of guys collapsing on the outside and a quarterback stepping up, he'll clean up
win my one-on-one.
Yeah, he'll get it. Now having those guys step into primary spots is going to be interesting.
It is going to be tough. And this is Andrew Van Ginkel's got an opportunity to make himself some money here as well. I have personally seen Stephen Ross and Tom Garfinkel, who's the Dolphins CEO, congratulating him after the game. Like, I have no reason to believe they are going to allow the Van Ginkel family to leave South Florida. But, if he can prove, hey, no, man, like, you see how I just stepped up without your $100 million man and first round pick? Like, I want some of that money too. But like I said, there's no depth behind them. So now when, we're talking about injuries, you're at a point where if Van Ginkel tweaks his ankle, if Ingram, pulls his hamstring, you're looking at Cameron Good in there. You're looking at the 7th round pick from a couple years ago who has, probably that many defensive snaps over the past 2 years under his belt. And he's all of a sudden elevated into a critical role, not just like a big spot, a critical role. That's hard, man. Cam Smith, the 2nd round corner from this year, can't get on the field. Vic Fangio had an incredible quote today. If you read through the lines, somebody asked him what he needs to do to get on the field, and he said, "I want to pull it up. I want to pull it up."
He rattled off like five things.
Yeah, it was that good. He said, I've got it close here. He said, just improve in all areas: assignment, technique, execution, know-how, just a little bit in all areas. He basically said he needs to be a better player.
Yeah.
He's not a good player right now. He needs to be a better player. He's not ready to contribute right now. Mike McDaniel is pretty intent on, he says quarterbacks and cornerbacks are kind of the same in that, like, you don't want to throw them into the fire too early and create scar tissue. Especially, you saw what happened with Noah Igbenogany. There's scar tissue that's not going to heal at this point. So, like, he's been careful with Cam Smith, but, like, you're at a point where Cam Smith is like the next man up. It's the next man up right now. So it's a very delicate situation that Vic Fangio has to deal with here, because he doesn't have the depth to, be going all out. But you also, like you said, you can't play it vanilla against this team because Josh Allen is going to kill you. So you have no choice. You kind of got to fall on your sword. You got to go down swinging. You got to, you have to blitz Josh Allen. That's what we're getting at. You have to blitz Josh Allen. Maybe take a couple pages out of the Josh Boyer book. I hated the Josh Boyer play calls, but I'll be damned if Boyer didn't every now and then force Josh into doing something dumb.
Go down swinging, man. Hearing you talk about the delicate balance of depth right now on the defensive side of the ball, I'm looking at this offense, and depending how this injury report shakes out for the rest of the week, that delicate balance transitions over to the offense too. If Mostert can't go, this running back room goes from one of the most dynamic ones that keep me up at night to, okay, as long as we can keep Achane from like totally like he can even pop a couple and I'm okay with that. Like we can try to keep that under wraps. And even with the wide receiver room, you go from a wide receiver room that features Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and then a bunch of other nice guys too, Tyreek and a bunch of guys, right? And so like having that delicate balance of not having a Waddle there, also with an injured Tyreek, right? Like he's playing through, and we saw him in a boot when showing up to his house there. That feels also very delicate when Durham Smythe, the last couple of games I've been watching, Durham Smythe seems to be like that second, third pass catching option right now in terms of consistent pass
third
catching
leading
option.
receiver.
That's got to make you feel sort of the same way in terms of delicate depth right now heading into the playoffs.
Yeah, and you can tell like when you watch this team, I think they really want Devon Achane to be that third option in the passing game. Like they want it. They go to him downfield. They allow him to run routes downfield. He trained a lot. It looked very natural, of course, when the pads were not on this past offseason. I expect that to be a heavy focal point for him this offseason because they need that third option. Obviously their top two is great. It's great. It's as good as you're getting in the NFL. It might be the best tag team tandem receiver in the NFL. But going into last week, Tyreek had 1,600 yards. Waddle had, I think, 1,015. Third leading receiver had 240.
Yeah.
At 240, there's no third option. Yeah. There's no third option right now. And so that's what's kind of scary about, you said, Aaron, you said, in order to go far in this playoffs to make any noise, you need Jalen Waddle on the field. That's why, because like Tua and, I'm surprised. Can't believe we've gone. This is 32 minutes, and this is maybe the first time Tua has been mentioned. But Tua is not. He is a good quarterback. He's a good quarterback. He's not the kind of player that elevates without options. And I'm not here to say like he's propped up by options. I'm here because they're not dialing up run plays for him. Not after last year. He is not. He's a fine athlete who can pick up some yards with his legs, but like he is not, you're not calling QB power, he's not scrambling for 10, 12 yards. He's not going to break off a 25 yard, he doesn't add that little, he doesn't have that kind of, element to his game to where,
he's picked up 4 first downs rushing on the season.
Yeah. Like that's not, I don't think they outright tell him don't run, but they don't obviously like when he runs. No coach likes when their quarterback runs, but Sean McDermott can get over it when Josh Allen takes off.
Yeah.
Andy Reid can tolerate it when Pat Mahomes goes.
Right.
I'm saying like some of these quarterbacks are built for that. Like that's not Tua's game. Like people always say, he's undersized. Well, neither did Drew Brees. All right, and Drew Brees also wasn't taking off running with football. So like this is the issue with him right now. And I think we're talking about people who can make a lot of money this postseason. If Tua is able to elevate a team that is this decimated, I don't know what really the critique is are gonna be.
Yeah.
What can you say if there is no Waddle, there is no he's got 2 starting offensive linemen in front of him. There's no defense to prop them up on the other side, and he's still leading this team to wins. And I think that this is a real statement. This is a real, a defining moment for Tua Tagovailoa. But yeah, no, it's that depth on offense and that third pass catcher, man. I think it is quickly becoming a need this offseason, whether it's in the draft or free agency. But you need somebody else. I think Braxton Berrios is a nice receiver, but he is a returner first and foremost. Like that is why they brought him in.
Yeah.
All right.
So with Tua there, one thing I want to talk about because the thing I'm focusing on is Waddle going to play in this game? Because I see 2 very different types of offenses when I watch with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle versus without one of them in this offense. And I think that it goes to your point of having that option. I also want anyone that discredits a quarterback because if they don't have enough talent around them like that, every quarterback needs great talent around them. Like we're trying to get more for Josh Allen in Buffalo as much as possible. Like that should never discredit because you have great talent there with you. But
Patrick Mahomes isn't not awesome all of a sudden. It just becomes apparent. They're like, hey, even Patrick Mahomes still needs some weapons around there.
Tyreek Hill is really good.
Yeah, it doesn't mean he's not awesome.
No, and so, but it does change. I see, and I want to know: do you see a major difference recently without Waddle being in this offense? It seems like that threat of the vertical, like Tyreek's always going to be a horizontal threat and a slant threat, and he can beat you and take you off the top of the defense. But I think people think him speed, vertical, he's going to beat you deep. He's always been a real stretch you horizontally. Achane also really is stretching you horizontally. Most are same thing. Waddle really opened up some more vertical elements to this offense. And it seems like they're still efficient. They're still getting the ball out quick. They can still do some things, but they've lost that deep explosion, which hats off to Tua, dude. He's a much better deep ball passer than Bills Mafia and people on the internet want to give this guy credit for. Like that is a real danger. That's why I'm hoping Waddle's not in, right? I don't want them to be able to take the top off the defense as easily and just focus on Tyreek, right? So do you see two different offenses when Waddle's not? Is it that big drastic of a difference, or am I overemphasizing that a little bit?
I mean, it was certainly drastic on Sunday. It's not something that we've had to see terribly often. I think there was only one other game that Waddle missed, and off the top of my head, I cannot remember which game it was. I want to, off the top of my head, I cannot remember which one it was. If you want to look that up, but like I do know it didn't look as bad as it did on Sunday, and the Ravens are too good of a defense to go in there shorthanded. I think without Jalen Waddle, without the threat of that second pass catcher, even. You can hyper focus on Tyreek Hill, and he's going to get loose because he runs a 4.05 40-yard dash, and he's one of the better route runners and receivers in the NFL. Like he's going to get his, but he's not going to explode like he would if you have to also divert resources to stopping Jalen Waddle.
He missed the Chiefs game.
Look bad? It was because it was the 70 points against Denver.
Was it?
That's why it didn't look bad. That's why it didn't look too bad. It's because it was the 70 points.
That's right. Yes, it was. That is.
He hurt himself against the Patriots.
I don't remember, but I know it didn't look like that.
Yeah. There was a reason it wasn't like Baltimore. It's because they put up 70.
That's right.
Oh, that is great. No, I think he did play. I think Waddle did play in the Chiefs game. Nobody played well. Right. Nobody played well that game.
No. And international football, but that's a different podcast.
Weird.
Oh man, that is funny. Yeah, that's right. I did make that note, and that infamous "this is the best offense ever" around the horn take. I did say they did all this without Jalen Waddle on the field.
Yeah.
And also I would love to say, because I never got to talk about this, so I'm going to hijack the topic for just like 5 seconds. Like I sat down in the chair, and I think they caught Tony asking me this, but like I sat down in my chair for like 10 seconds, and Tony said, "Give me your hottest take from that performance. Is this like the best offense of all time?" So I was like, yeah, absolutely, man. But he asked for my hottest take. Hottest, not well thought out, researched, explainable. He said, hottest take. And people got so damn mad at that afterwards, as if I was like hammering the table, like, this is the best offense of all time. It was the hottest take that I could think of. And like it worked, I guess. Like hot takes are meant to get people talking, and they definitely got people talking. That's funny. But no, get back to the matter at hand. Without Waddle, it is it places more emphasis on obviously being able to run the ball because you need other options. I think Devon Achane, he was good. He was the only bright spot on Sunday. It gets to a point where once you fall too far behind, you have to kind of abandon the run. And the problem with abandoning the run when you only have one receiver to throw to is the defense knows you have to pass, and you only have one guy you can throw the ball to. Yeah. We're going to give up 8 yards to Durham Smythe over the middle. You can have that. You're not going to take 20 over the top, 30, 40 over the top with Tyreek Hill. So yeah, he's critical. The numbers don't look as good as they did last year for Jalen Waddle. He is still a critical element to this offense.
So let's put you on the spot. What do you actually expect to see Sunday night? And if you're allowed, give us a score prediction.
Oh man, I don't know if I'm allowed to give a score prediction. I don't know about it's just anything
gambling.
Gambling. I'd love to I turned down an event going to the Hard Rock Sportsbook when they opened up. We got all these celebrities. Rick Ross is going to be there and DJ Khaled and this. And I was like, none of them pay my salary, so I'm going to stay at home. But I'll tell you, I'll say this. Like, I'm not going to say the Dolphins can't win. I'm not going to say the Dolphins won't win. I will say that, like, I think it would be a surprise if the Dolphins pulled it off on Sunday. I think that there's just too many injuries and the Bills are too hot right now. And it would take their best effort of the season to win. I'll put it that way. You know, I'm not saying it's outside the realm of possibility. It would take their best effort of the season. This would be the crown jewel of Mike McDaniel's resume if they are able to pull this off on Sunday.
I agree with that.
Eliminating the Bills to lock up the first AFC title in years, knocking them out while shorthanded. Yeah, he can wear all the cute t-shirts he wants. You can put whatever he wants on the t-shirt. You pull that off.
They almost had it, and it's going to be right up there with that game with Skylar Thompson last year. That would have been, I thought that was, even in a loss, I thought that was the biggest game of Mike McDaniel's kind of tenure here, because like it showed this man is capable of rallying a team that shouldn't compete, that should not possibly compete. And so because of that, I can't count the Dolphins out of this game. I think he is a good motivator. He might not be a rah-rah. He's not Dan Campbell. He's not Mike Vrabel. Like, he's very much 5'9", maybe 150, 140 pounds. But like, he speaks his mind. He speaks the truth. He is himself, and he's a brilliant offensive play caller. I think the players believe in him, and I think that everybody's mind is right in this building. It's just one of those where like your mind could be about as right as possible. The other team is better right now, is playing better football right now. You're going to have to bring not your A game, your A+ game. If that happens, then sure, Miami wins the AFC East. But I need to see that before I, pound the table for any team one way or another. And I've seen it from the Bills over the past month.
Cool, man.
All right, man. Congratulations. Keep killing it around the horn. It's fun to see. I've been watching Tony Reale and those guys for a long, long time, and it's really cool to look up and go, oh, shit, I know him. That's fun. That's awesome, man. Congratulations. Keep doing what you're doing. It's so fun to see your rise through everything here. And hopefully we get
that intervention soon. Hopefully
on Sunday night, and then we'll schedule your intervention for the playoff.
One of these days, I'm gonna walk into Frizzy's in Buffalo, or I'm gonna walk into Macy's, and I'm just gonna have Macy's would never. Macy's is my embassy in Buffalo. If you're
safe there,
I can't be touched at Macy's, man.
Yeah, that's
no way. That's unforgivable. That's unforgivable, man. So like one day I'm just gonna walk into Baggett's Claim and walk in a car rental and be like, oh, Marcel, you used to cover the Bills, right? All right, yeah. Here's the 1983 Astro van that you rented, right? That's
we got you a 1996 Geo Metro.
Yeah. Here's actually like a slightly battered.
There's two dudes with Zubas in the back for some reason. I don't know what that's about.
Nice Zubas ski mask.
Yeah.
We heard you like to troll Buffalo.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, man. Thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it. Hopefully we'll have reason to be able to touch base again here for a rematch.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you guys having me on. Good talking with you.
All right, take care, man.
Thanks, Marcel. It is crazy to be in this spot, with what the preseason expectations were, and now what they were 4 and 6 weeks ago, coming off the Denver loss and the Philadelphia loss. It's wild to now be in a position where I still can't believe it. We could either be the 2 seed or eliminated from the playoffs.
There's some other options too, but yes, it's a swing. There's a big swing.
It's just wild. There's a piece, obviously, like people have asked, so I'll put it to you. I think analytically, anyone would say, well, hey, I mean, yeah, of course, I kind of hope that Baltimore and Jacksonville, or that Pittsburgh and Jacksonville lose so that we have a spot locked up already, and that it relieves that on Sunday night. There's a piece of me that wants to say, I kind of want it to be like a real playoff game, like that. I like them having that mentality of like, hey, your playoff started 4 weeks ago. You don't have the safety net. You don't have a parachute of the choice of not losing. You have to win. I know that's not actually the smarter choice,
or healthy for us. Yeah.
Or healthy at all for my cardiovascular
You are
health.
a proven masochist. Thank you for proving that to everyone here tonight.
A lot wrong with me. But there's a piece of me that like, hey, this has worked.
Sure.
That you guys keep telling yourselves your playoff started 4 weeks ago. You've got 5 games to go. There's a piece of me that just wants that to continue.
It has worked. But it's also easier to say that in hindsight, squeaking out victories against teams that you probably should have beat better the last couple of weeks. Like, I'm having a tough time digesting that one of like, yes, our playoffs did begin, but then you barely beat the Chargers and the Patriots. Like, if this was really like your season's on the line and you're scraping to get by teams that you should probably win by multiple scores. I get it. It's the NFL. Weird things happen. It's going to be a 1-score league. I just don't feel like they're playing their best football right now. I think they've had moments of it, and we've seen glimpses of really elite football on both sides of the ball. But I still see a lot of the same problems that were happening during the slump. Just some of those 1-score games flipped the other way for us down the stretch here. But I still see a team that's very much in a similar spot that they were when we were talking about firing the head coach.
Yeah, and I'll remind people, everybody remembers that the Rams won the Super Bowl. They don't remember that like Tom Brady had just gone down for a game-winning drive, and then Cooper Kupp caught a ridiculous Hail Mary to get them back into being able to win that game. Everybody remembers, the Chiefs Super Bowl. They still had some really ugly games. They barely beat Jacksonville in the division round. Jacksonville was winning that game. The Bengals were winning that game. I think everyone thinks of these Super Bowl runs as, oh, that was just the best team and they ran away with everything. And like, well, a lot of times it kind of does take some like crazy last second things along the way, or wins they don't deserve. There were lots of wins the Patriots didn't deserve in their 6 Super Bowls on the path to getting there. So I don't need them all to be pretty. I just need them to keep winning. Just find a way to keep winning, keep this season alive. So with that in mind, we have an interesting situation here. For a first time this season, the folks over at Leftern did not have the print ready. So week 18 of season 5 of the Leftern Game Day series wasn't ready by the time we recorded. It might be out by the time you hear this. So while you're listening, watching on YouTube, watching on listening on podcast, we may have things ready to rock and out there, and the link will be ready. But if you're unaware of the series, Leftern and a different local artist each week create a game day poster for the matchup at hand and release 100 stamped and numbered copies on their website. With this game being a huge game and a huge rivalry, it's something you'll want to remember. So grab a print for the house or as a gift for someone to go into the game. Support local artists and businesses. Greg and Melissa have been awesome to work with. They actually said that the artists this week encouraged everyone to eat Arby's and said that was an exciting way that they could celebrate the game here. So I'm excited to see what they come up with.
I am also excited to see what they come up with, because it'll be a big game. And they've done just such an incredible job with this year's series. And
other cool stuff too. Like I actually love, one of my favorite things to wear is the "We're Back, Deal with It, America" shirt. It's one of my favorite ones to wear. I really love it. For anybody who doesn't remember, the sign in the 4th Super Bowl year, fans in the stands held up a big yellow sign with black font, "We're Back, Deal with It, America." This is one of my favorite shirts that I own. It's fantastic and a fantastic gift from those folks over there at Leftern.
Yeah, I love it.
So by the time you guys listen to this, you will very likely see the new print. I'm excited to be able to see it and see where it's coming from. But with that in mind, what is your fresh design for this week, where style points don't matter? There's a piece of me, I've said it for 5-6 weeks now, that like, hey, establishing the run, I want to see these shot plays on play action coming off of it. I'm getting to the point now where it's almost kind of weird that we haven't seen it yet. I don't understand why we invested so much in that and aren't like leveraging what in my mind is the obvious benefit that it introduces. So I still want it. I still want that to be my fresh look, but I'm getting more desperate by the moment of whether I'm actually going to see it.
Yeah, those ones are tough because I think they're rare plays still, and they don't connect at an efficient rate. But when it connects, it's going to be sweet.
Attempts. Yeah. Just
when it connects, it'll be sweet for you. My fresh design of the week this week is honestly, it was something I kind of wanted to ask Marcel about, but we were running tight on time. Is you sort of alluded to it a little bit with their roster and some of the injury decisions they're making and how they're handling that, being a team that's already in the playoffs. Greg, I've said it so many times on the show, and you know me, I'm a big believer in the amount of desperation a team has matters significantly in the NFL. I think the margins are slim in the league in general, and I think that any bit of motivation or whatever it is can put you over the top. And I do think a desperate team is a scarier opponent than a team that doesn't need the victory. And so for my fresh design of the week, it's really the kitchen sink. Whatever you've got in your back pocket, the Bills are not in the same position Miami is. And maybe come 8:00 on Sunday, it won't be a kitchen sink scenario. But in my mind, this is win and get in. I don't care about the other games. I'm not sure what the outcome of those are going to be. I'm thinking about the Bills need to win this game or they're not making the playoffs. And with that in mind, it's any of those things that I was saving, whether it's the getting those play action bombs, whatever it is, trick plays. We haven't seen a lot of that. Those are Dable things.
Touchdown. We've seen David Edwards on the field an awful lot.
Josh Allen catching
a pass attempt to him.
Josh Allen catching a ball. We haven't seen those are Dayball things that we just haven't seen those like elements mixed in. And I don't know if you'll need them in this game. I don't know if it'll come down to that, but if it does, if this is truly an elimination game, and if you're getting to a point in this game where you need something to happen, it's the kitchen sink. Pull out every trick thing, all hands on deck. If you're injured, you got to play type of situation for the Buffalo Bills. I want it all. I want them to go down swinging. If they're losing this game at any point, I want a fake punt type of stuff. Like I want you to give every single aspect you can to trying to find a way to win this and get yourselves into the playoffs.
Yeah. And I think that approach, there's been some things. I was on a show earlier this week with some Dolphins folks, and they were asking about differences between Dorsey and Brady, and I think it's really hard. So Adam Pencil over with us at Cover One does a ton of really good research, and we've talked a little bit about how much can you extrapolate from 5 games? How much can you pull when one of them we literally ran the ball 77% of the time? Like that skews a lot, and there's other pieces of this that I just don't know how much we can pull from, that means Joe Brady doesn't like pre-snap motion. That means Joe Brady doesn't like play action. I don't believe that. Like, I don't think that's just a fact that, like, well, we've run pre-snap motion and play action at a lower rate than, others in the league. And that means we just haven't seen it yet, that he hasn't leaned into that as much as maybe people assumed. But like you said, okay, now I want to see it. Everybody knows what it's there for. You did all this work. James Cook is now a first ballot Pro Bowler and has
Hall of Famer to Joe Schott or whatever. He said he's the best running back since
put him over Marshawn Lynch and LaShawn McCoy and Fred Jackson. Hey, it's awesome. Congrats to James Cook. Best running back since Thurman Thomas. I need to see it.
Yeah,
we put all that time and effort in. You established the run. It's the best run game we've had in Josh Allen's career. Keep doing it. We don't have the guys to set the edge from Miami. That's great. Let's keep running. Run game
could be huge.
Let's keep running at them. But then also, give me a play action shot play. Give me something off of it. Utilize it. Let's go jumbo set. Let's bring David Edwards in. And then put him in motion and throw the ball at David Edwards. Give me something tricky. Give me something sneaky. I'd like a fat man touchdown in my life. I think I deserve it.
Yeah. Yeah, give it to him, man.
All right. So, with that said, what do you expect on Sunday night?
Yeah, this is a super tough one. One, not really knowing how that Miami injury report is going to shake out, skews everything. So I'm going to assume that we don't see Waddle and Mostert. I'm going to assume that they know they have a playoff game. They don't need to play everybody. They would like to win this. They don't need it. So I'm assuming that's the case we're at. In prepping for this, the game that stood out to me the most as the one that I feel like this is going to feel like is the Dallas Cowboys versus Miami Dolphins game, Christmas Eve, where I think it was 22-20, low scoring game. I think, you look at this game on paper and you see the way these offenses can be, and you think maybe this is going to be a 38-30 something game. And my head was there at first, but the more I've watched these two teams over the last month, I see injuries. I see some problems. I see some inefficiencies.
That Miami-Dallas game had 7 field goals.
Yeah, I think that we're going to get something 27-24, maybe 23-20, something like that, where, there are some field goals. Maybe Bass, I was just talking about this on Trainwreck. I was on one of their shows earlier. Like, maybe it needs to come down to a Bass game winner so that he can get some of that confidence. We've talked about him getting that big crown jewel kick for himself that puts him over the top. Maybe it's something like that, but I do think it'll be a closer game than we like. I think my heart rate's going to hate it. All the bacon grease that I consume is not going to like it. But I think it'll be a little bit lower scoring, and that the teams struggle to put up points against each other. And that maybe there's some pressing from a guy like Josh, and there'll be some turnovers and some sloppy play a little bit on both sides, and settling for field goals. I just don't feel like it's going to be I think there's going to be a lot of tension in this game, and the valve never really blows off this one.
Yeah. I think that's really, really sound. You kicked around some of the numbers I was looking at, and I think it's in that same space. I do think there's a difference. If Waddle plays, they can go shot for shot with us. They can. We actually saw that in the first game, where the first 5 possessions was touchdown, 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 back and forth and back and forth. And then we finally got a stop. And then the defense actually played really well, and we held them in check for a great deal of that game. I don't think this Miami defense is going to consistently stop us. I was asked on that other show, Bills win if, and finish the sentence. And my answer was, if Josh Allen plays an A- game, if Josh Allen plays A+, we beat everyone in the NFL. Josh Allen's A+ game, we beat every team in the NFL. Josh Allen's A game, we can beat almost everybody. Maybe we need better than that for San Francisco or Baltimore or whatever it is. In this game, I don't need A+ Josh. I don't need A Josh. I don't need, Josh has been AFC Player of the Week like 4 or 5 different times against Miami, something insane. I don't need AFC Player of the Week. I can't have C+ Josh. Yeah. I can't have B- Josh. I can't have multiple turnover Josh. Don't give them the chance to hang in this game shorthanded because they're throwing the kitchen sink at us. This is a game where we have to accept that some Sam Martin punts aren't a bad thing. Our defense is playing well. Their offensive line is dinged up. We are going to be able to get some pressure on Tua. It does change if Waddle plays, but if he doesn't, we can bracket Tyreek Hill.
They've done a good job with Tyreek too.
Yes, we actually haven't, we haven't gotten roasted by Tyreek Hill in most games. He's had a big play here or there, but for the most part, we haven't had some of those crazy games that he's had against other people. Give yourself the chance to stay in this game. There will be games. If the Bills go on a historic run here, we're going to need Josh to put the cape on in some of these games to be able to figure it out. Right now, it looks like he's going to have to do that against Baltimore. That's not what we need Sunday night. You don't need to break records. You don't need to be AFC Player of the Week. Keep everything under control. Show that you are the smarter, better quarterback here, that you're able to control everything that's going on, put ourselves in position to win, keep everything under control, move on to live and fight another day. Give me A- Josh, and I think we got it. So I'm going to take that. I think it's a little bit higher. I'm going to go 30-27. Okay. I think it is a close game. I do think they keep up with it. I think Waddle's going to play. I think it's going to go back and forth. I think we're going to be stressed out. We're probably going to be losing at some point. I think that we find a way to pull it out. I think it's 30-27. And they move on, and they're going to host a playoff game and continue this run.
Let's do it. I like it. This would be to the scriptwriter joke that I made earlier. Like, this would be the craziest of all the seasons so far, Greg, if this was the one that they just get hot and go on a run, right? Like,
I will say there is an element that almost makes sense. That's almost poetic, that the first championship in franchise history would be in the season where not us, not me, not you, the vast majority of analysts, content creators, and people following the team were openly supporting that we probably need to fire the coach. And that it would just be unbelievably poetic that that's the season that they somehow go on a run to turn this around. That would be as Billsy as anything could be, would be, of course, that would be the season that they find a way to figure this out.
I would like that a lot.
I'll help contribute to build the statue.
That would be really nice. Yeah.
All right, man. Anything else for the people before we sign out here?
No, this is going to be a super long weekend. Already a weird one for us doing this episode on a Thursday. I thought that would actually help in like shortening up the week after the show for me, but still, we've just got so long before this game actually takes place.
Thursday night football tonight.
There's no Thursday night football.
College is done till Monday.
Yeah, I mean golf's back. Not that only like 20 other people
help me.
Yeah, there's only like 20 people.
You and the handful of other sickos watching January golf.
Dozens of us. Yeah. No, it's gonna be a long week. I know my anxiety is going to be as bad as it's been in years. Like this is legitimately, I was joking around saying it earlier in that text group, but this is for real the biggest game of my adult regular season game for the Buffalo Bills that I can remember in my adult life. I mean, there were some drought ones where it's like if you win and some other stuff happens, they get in. There's the Miami, they win that game, and then if the Cincinnati Bengals won, we got in, broke the drought. But those were all like contingency games. This is like your back's against the wall and you can get the 2 seed, and if you lose, you might not be in the playoffs. I've never seen a game with this type of consequence.
Wild.
Yeah.
Yep. We'll see where it goes. I'm going to be here. I'm going to do my best to survive it and to be able to be here for it. We'll see if I can pull it off. But
I'm going to be making my sandwiches. Best sandwiches I've got all year.
I've kind of got this double fry thing figured out for making chicken wings at home. It turned out really good. I'm excited. I've actually researched some more things on letting them chill, like having them set out and chilled for a period of time. I got a whole thing ready.
Don't switch up too much.
No. Yeah, we got to do what works. Right. We got to do what works. So we appreciate it. We apologize we couldn't pull a ton of the comments up here. Our fantastic producer Chris is traveling with his family. So we were
he's one of those
on our own tonight. Hopefully enjoying himself, traveling safely, and hopefully will be back here with us Sunday night. But we appreciate you guys and all the activity and everything you guys have been doing, supporting us. It's been a ton of fun. Help us out. Press the like button on your way out. It really goes a long ways. Press that like button. Give us a comment or a review. Put your score prediction in the comments on YouTube here. Let us know what score you think is going to happen and what we should expect in this game. We're looking forward to it. But on behalf of Aaron Quinn, I'm Greg Thompson. You've been listening to the Cover One Buffalo podcast, and we are